Welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick, also known as Scent Nick. Imagine waking up tomorrow and your entire fragrance collection was gone. Every bottle, years of collecting, it's all gone. So the question becomes, what are the first 10 fragrances that I would buy to rebuild a collection? For this video, I'm not simply picking my favorite fragrances. To build a well-rounded collection, each fragrance has to fill a role, something like daily wear, cold weather, warm weather, date nights, and things like emotional value. So if I had to rebuild my collection, these are the first 10 fragrances that I would repurchase. And I'm curious about this one. If the same happened to you, what would be the first fragrance that you would buy to start rebuilding your collection? The first thing that you need when rebuilding a collection is something easy, something you don't have to think about and you can just reach for it, grab it, and it's always gonna work. For me, that fragrance is Roja Parfum's Isola Blue. Now this fragrance is, the king of versatility. It's kind of good for everything. It's bright, green, citric, aromatic, kind of sparkling like, a good Roja does. Everything about this just works. There's a lot of bright citruses on top with some nice herbals, maybe a hint of lavender as well. The heart is, a blend of florals. You get a little bit of this coconutty kind of thing. It's very subtle. You get the nice crisp apple. It's fresh, refined, and just very easy to wear. And in the base, you're gonna get a mixture of woods, musk, fresh spices, just things that give this thing so much class and versatility. Like I said, this one could almost be a blue style fragrance, but for me, it works for every occasion. It's soft, it's long lasting, it's professional, it's everything you could ever ask for, and it's literally the definition of a dumb reach fragrance. Next is gonna be something, safe and polished that feels perfect for, a professional setting. It's got confidence, but it's not, overwhelming or intimidating. For me, that fragrance is Mise en Cyre's Perfect Oud. If you've been watching me for a while, I love this fragrance. This actually used to be what I considered my signature scent, but this actually works for a phenomenal office scent. And there may be the word oud in this, but do not be alarmed because it is so subtle, it is so clean and elegant that it really works for that kind of situation. The blend of this one is aromatic, kind of powdery, and woody. There's a nice bright amount of juniper, some pink pepper, and like bergamot all on the top with a nice, elegant, and airy, powdery iris note with a clean oud. Like I've said, there is some cedar, there is some musk. The entire blend of this one is soft. It's clean, it's refined, it is really incredibly approachable. Think of almost Prada L'Homme, but not as shower fresh, and give it just a little bit more wood. And now we're kind of talking. There's also a hint of rose in here, making this a very everyday appropriate professional rose oud style scent. To me, man, I can't get enough of this one. It's soft, perfectly long lasting, about 6 to 8 hours. Pretty medium on the projection. You can load up on the sprays if you want, but for someone like me who's just a little bit older, mid-30s, this kind of fragrance works great for an everyday office safe scent. Another thing a well-rounded fragrance wardrobe needs is something that thrives in the heat. Something that is bright, maybe a little more citric, it's fresh, and it just is perfectly suited for heat. For me, that fragrance is Xerjoff's Renaissance. And you rarely see me talk about Xerjoff on this channel, but this one, if I had to pick one fragrance to work for heat, this one, for some reason, kept calling my name. I love this one because it's super bright, very citric, with a very refreshing, minty quality. This one is kind of, think of fresh, green, sweet mint from a garden, pick it off the stalk, and you're smelling that kind of thing. Paired with it, you get some Lily of the Valley. You get this soapy, clean, white floral touch. You get a nice, subtle, clean woodiness, along with a healthy dose of amber, a little bit of clean musk, and some resin. Guys, this thing is, a stunner. It's sparkly fresh, long lasting, And I mean long lasting. For a freshie, this thing sticks on my hours for 10 to 12 hours. It projects very well for something clean, fresh, kind of minty and invigorating that works for any situation in the summer, that will not become cloying or anything like that in the heat. This one does the trick. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, you also need something for the cooler weather, something that's a little warmer, that can stand up to the cold, that is cozy, rich, and has power. For me, that fragrance is Epic Man from Amouage. I don't know why, but this fragrance kept calling my name as I was looking to fill this category. And I'm glad it did, because I actually adore this fragrance. I always kind of considered Epic Man to be Amouage's take on Oud Wood. So obviously with that we have Oud, but there's also this ambery quality to it with a lot of fresh and warm spices. You get these cardamom kind of things, you get some juniper berry, you get other like nutmegs, culinary spices, you get a nice subtle amount of florals in here, but the star of the show is absolutely the woods down in the base with the rest of the resins. You know, you also get a little bit of this animalic note, which is either from the oud, there may be some castoreum in this, there's a smoky incense. I think this thing is stunning. It's definitely a hair more mature. It's still clean and refined, but it's warm, it's cozy, it's rich and luxurious. It's perfect for a cold weather daily driver sort of thing. And guys, by the way, if you are interested in checking out any of these fragrances in this video, I do have links in the description below. If you choose to purchase through them, it does support the channel, but seriously guys, no pressure whatsoever. The next category is gonna be a little more intimate. This is something that works perfectly for the evenings or maybe something like a date night. For me, that fragrance is Spiritueuse Double Vanille from Grail. Now, yes, I do have the older bottle, so don't be thrown off by that. But this fragrance, you know, it's relatively new to my collection, and I think this thing is lovely. I think this fits that role perfectly because this fragrance isn't too loud. And if you have watched my content for long enough, you understand my take on date night fragrances. These aren't meant to be loud and proud, but these are supposed to be intimate and sexy and cozy, and that's what this one is. Obviously, it's kind of a vanilla, bomb, paired with a little bit of warm resins, some woods, and some kind of powdery yellow florals with a little bit of rose and some incense. This fragrance, it's soft, it's alluring, it's cozy, it's sweet. The vanilla is rich, kind of boozy, and clean at the same time. It also reminds me of vanilla ice cream in the best way possible. So for something, that's just a little more cozy around the house, or maybe you're going on a date night, this is such a great option, especially if you can find it at a discount. I don't know, guys, Spiritueuse Double Vanille is a fantastic fragrance. If I'm rebuilding a fragrance collection, I also want something that feels elevated. Something that is, kind of, I guess, statement making in a way, but something that I would be very happy and proud to wear to a special occasion or an elegant event. That fragrance for me is Soudain l'Hiver from Henri Jacques. And you've seen my review, hopefully, of this one already. You know what I feel about this fragrance. It is the epitome of class, masculine class with a vintage, edge to it. It's green with pine up at the top. It's unashamedly pine. You also get crispness from bergamot. There's a healthy dose of wood in here. There's cedar. There are some powdery yellow and white florals. You get some neroli, some jasmine, paired with a nice herbal touch of rosemary. With that, you get a nice mossy base with a little bit of olibanum and leather, making this insanely beautiful fragrance that is kind of chypre-esque. That kind of reminds me of the pinnacle of Polo back to 1978 when Polo was first released, but this is even more class. This thing has the richness of tobacco in it. It has the woodiness of cedar. It's got the green notes. It's got the moss. It's got everything you could ever ask for in a classy masculine fragrance. It is vintage, it is dated, that kind of thing. But to me, my God, this thing is elegant. And I know every time I wear it, my chest goes up a little bit. I walk taller. This thing is out freaking standing. Guys, for my elegant pick, that's Soudain l'Hiver from Amouage Addicts. You know, fragrance isn't always about smelling good. Some fragrances carry a little bit more than that. Something, emotional, like maybe a personal, meaning, or they carry a memory. They evoke a memory. I like to have a fragrance like that in my collection. And that fragrance for me, guys, is Hope from Frederic Malle. And again, I've posted a review of this one. But to me, this one, as I'm even recollecting right now, I'm getting chills. But this one to me reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of growing up with my older and younger brother on a cold fall and winter morning when we would go out with my dad to chop wood. He'd be sawing the wood with his chainsaw. We'd be picking up the wood. I would smell the oil, smell the gasoline, smell the wood chips, the cedar, that kind of thing, and then the leather of my gloves, along with, just various aspects of nature. And this fragrance evokes that memory for me. So it's special. This one, has juniper berry. So you get that kind of cedar-esque, that piney, coniferous, cooling thing. That gives me the cool air. You get pink pepper in here, giving a nice cooling aromatic touch. Obviously, there's oud in here. It's a nice, beautiful, refined, kind of smoky oud. And it's very real. There's leather in here. There's the leather glove. There's smoke from incense. There's amber in this. There's some vetiver. Guys, for me, this is a deeply personal fragrance. I also know many people love and adore Hope from Frederic Malle. The performance is excellent. And nice thing, even though this one, is the emotional category for me, it also does smell good. So that's a double bonus for me. It performs really well. It's a very special fragrance to me. This is definitely one that I would like to know about from you guys. What is a fragrance that holds that kind of value to you, that brings back an emotion or brings back a personal memory? Make sure you drop it in the comments and let me know about that one. I also like having something in my collection that smells more like art than utility. Something that feels like an expression more than a good smell. That fragrance for me, guys, is Last Season by Malle Fasciuni. Now, this one also carries a little bit of emotional weight for me. But if you've experienced anything from the house of Malle Fasciuni, you know that most of his work is artistic. And this one in particular is not one that many people flock to. And most people that smell it and love it also see this as art. The picture that has been presented to me before that I think is the perfect fitting, description of this is, imagine yourself going out. It's fall, it's kind of chilly outside. It's, kind of wet. The ground's wet. There's leaves on the ground. There's a pile of leaves. They're wet, dirty. You just went out, rolled around in it. You got dirty. That kind of smell, that damp earth kind of thing. But for me, this one also carries the emotional weight of darkness and rebirth in a way. With a name like Last Season, going through my own personal journey, this fragrance just resonated very deeply with me. There's immortelle, there's galbanum, there's pine and like kind of coniferous notes. You get these herbal things going on. There is animalic things. There's castoreum in here. There's oud, there's tobacco, there's costus in here. There's all kinds of weird, funky things creating this woody, green, smoky, leathery, mossy fragrance that is unapologetic, that is beautiful to me, that is potent. This is like a 1 or 2 sprayer. It will last 24 hours on your skin. That is just seriously special for me, and it is a true work of art, although many people would say that it does not smell good. Okay, every fragrance lover has that one fragrance that just feels special. That one that makes the hobby worth it, that one that you chase the grail of the collection. For me, the grail of my collection is Roja's Diaghilev. And in particular, this one in particular, which is, the 2012 paper label version of it. And while maybe I wouldn't seek out a paper label version of it because they're hard to find and they're really freaking expensive, I would seek out Diaghilev because that's kind of been my Grail fragrance for as long as I can remember. It's always been, my number one kind of thing that for some reason, I just love it. I don't always wear it kind of thing. It feels super special to wear. This is a super vintage smelling, masculine, fruity Chypre. It's loud, it's unapologetic, it's, elegant, it's incredible. So this one, has the quintessential Roja's peach note. This is the first one that I ever experienced that had his peach note in it. You get bergamot, you get tarragon. The opening of this is bright and herbal. But with all of that, you get an insane amount of these animalic musks, these intense musks, powdery musks. You get woods galore, dry woods, dry resins, smoky resins, castoreum giving it this skanky factor. You also get white florals. You get moss, lots of moss. There are other florals at play here as well. Just really making this thing opulent. I don't use that word often, but opulent feels right for this. This thing, you see the smile on my face, but this for as long as I can remember and as long as I can foresee, will always be my Grail because something about this just resonates. I don't know, maybe I wore it in a past life or something, who knows? But this one is definitely a Grail to me, guys. And that brings us to the final category, the fragrance that just feels like me. If I had to rebuild my fragrance collection, this might be the most important slot. Not because it's the most impressive or the most versatile fragrance, but more so it goes deeper. It captures something and it just hits me and feels like me when I wear it. I think every fragrance lover eventually finds that one scent that, hits them on a personal level. It goes deeper. It feels like not necessarily something that you wear, but more so something that represents you. For me, that fragrance would be Dior's Oud Rosewood. And you can even see I've got it engraved on the bottle. And if you watched, the recent review, you know that this fragrance is in this spot. I've been collecting for 3-4 years now, and this is very new to the collection. And if you listen to the story on that video, this came about whenever I was, just searching for fragrance. I never buy retail, and this was one that I bought retail. I was searching for that fragrance that hit like that, or maybe I didn't realize I was looking for that. But when I smelled this, I was like, this for some reason smells like me. And I quickly got the confirmation from 2 of my best friends. They were like, yeah, this smells like you. This is got kind of a fruity opening, but it goes into this kind of woody, slightly animalic and floral heart, but wraps up with a nice amount of oud and rosewood. This fragrance speaks a lot. And when I say that, I mean there's dimension to it. There's space in the composition that it's not hitting you like a wall. There's airiness. There's class in this. There's a little bit of this vintage vibe, this classic masculine vibe, which I think comes from that rosewood. This thing, I guess it feels kind of mature. And for me, I don't know. It feels like me. It captures notes that I really love. The oud is super approachable. The thing about this fragrance, I think why it hit me so deeply, is it feels approachable, it feels put together, and it's not trying to make a statement. And I feel like that encapsulates a lot of what, I am, I guess. I try to be that kind of person that is approachable, that can be relied on, that is not trying to make a statement. So that's why this one just smells like me. Guys, if you enjoy thoughtful fragrance discussions, like content like this, consider subscribing to the channel. And I would love to know, what is the one fragrance that smells like you? Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.